Hi, welcome everyone. We are so excited to have Zach Tyler with us on the podcast today. He was so great to be able to come on the show with us today, so we're very grateful for him to be here. We just want to say a little bit about Zach, actually. He is currently at Brigham Young University. He is majoring in psychology and actually minoring in two things, communications and business. So he is handsome boy and a smart boy, for all those wondering. He is awesome. And he's actually been one of our closest friends for a long time. If you know Zach, you know that he is so supportive and so inclusive. I've never met someone with such great a style as Zach as well. There was this one time where I let him borrow one of my jackets, and he looked so much better in my jacket that I started getting jealous. So I texted him, please give me my jacket back. He looked too good in it. And he gave it back. But he is wonderful. And Zach, did you want to say anything else about yourself for everyone listening today?
Sure, yeah. I'm from Arizona. And yeah, I lived in Arizona my whole life. I served a mission after I graduated high school. I served in the Indianapolis, Indiana mission. And then 2 years later, I moved up to Provo. So I've just been going to school there ever since. So
if you get lucky, you can get on Zach's Christmas tree. He'll print out a picture and put you on an ornament.
Yeah, tell us the story of the Christmas tree. Like, how did that start?
So on my mission, my mom asked me what I wanted for Christmas, and I just told her that I wanted just like a paper cutout of a Christmas tree with like faces of like my family and my cousins and relatives on it. And I just was so excited to put it up on my mission. And then once I came home from my mission, I bought a tree and I bought these ornaments. I don't know, I just felt like that something was missing. And then I decided, I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna, ask my friends to send me a picture. And then the friends who sent in pictures, they were able to be featured on my tree. And so
Yeah.
that's basically it. It's
Zach
fun
is
though.
always the star too.
He is always the
I'm
star.
always
Always the star of the
I'm
show.
always a star. So.
So how many years have you been doing that for?
Well, I've been the star on.
How many years have been the star?
I've been the star for 4 years, and then I've done the Friends tree for 2 years. So,
That's
yeah,
awesome.
it's fun. I love it. So.
One thing about Zach, I think I met him quite a bit after Hollis had, and I just instantly just felt like we were friends. So super accepting, super just approachable, and will start to treat you like he's known you for a long time very quickly. And so
Thank you.
it's an honor to have you on the podcast today, and we're so excited to hear more about your story and for our listeners to get to know you better.
Sweet. Thank you.
So what would you say, at just kind of a high level, are some of the reasons why you're here with us today?
I would say the main reason, it's because I feel like that the experiences that I've gone through in my life, I hope that through like my insight and through the things that I shared today, we'll be able to help people. For instance, the main thing I'm going to talk about is last September my sister passed away, and it was it still hurts me every single day dealing with that, and just learning how to cope with it. And but I feel like that through that process I've been able to see things in a different set of eyes, and it's helped me to be more empathetic, and or at least try to be more empathetic for people, and to help understand that what, I just need to see God, or I need to see people as God sees them. And so I hope that through my story and through the insight that I may share, that people can be able to gain that for themselves as well. So
If I learned anything from Zach, for everyone listening today, he really has just learned so much from it and has just applied that to his life and to everyone who he meets. And Zach, like, take us through that. Like, when that first happened last year, what happened? Like, what was it like?
Where were you?
So it was a little interesting. So kind of before it happened, I was in I was in therapy, and I just went to counseling, and I met with my counselor, and he just kind of like asked me, just kind of like, how's your relationship with your dad? How's your relationship with your mom and your brother and your sister? And then he asked me, like, how's your relationship with your sister Sasha? And I just told him that, like, things were as good as it was. Things with relationship with my sister wasn't perfect. But I basically just said that, there's going to be, a day in our lives that, that relationship will, that it will get better. And I just did, at that moment, I just didn't feel like that it was the time to do so. But a couple hours later, I was in one of my psychology classes, and I got a call from my mom, and I didn't answer it, and so I texted her right away, and I said, hey, I'm in class, and she said, this is an emergency, and I need you to step outside. And so then I knew that instant that that something really bad happened. So then I walked outside. I was in the Kimple Tower, and I went outside on the steps, and I called my mom, and she said, Zach, I need you to sit down when I tell you this. And then right then and there, I knew that someone in our family died. And when she told me that my sister was in a car accident and she didn't make it, I just collapsed. And it just was the most excruciating and painful experience I've ever had to deal with. And I don't talk about it a whole lot because it still hurts me. And not only did it hurt me that I lost my sister, but I feel like I gave up on our relationship at that time. And so that was really hard for me. And so after that phone call, I luckily had a friend in that class, and she was so kind to take me home. And I just laid down on my bed, and I just trying to wrap around what happened, and just crying and just like not really knowing what to do. And I just remember I called I called one of my friends because I needed someone to pick up my car on campus, but then I also called my cousin, Austin, to come over and give me a blessing. And so when he came over to give me a blessing at that time, he didn't know yet what happened. And so when he came over, I was just crying, and I was just sitting there for like 20 minutes, and he asked, like, so what happened? And like, in that moment when I had to tell him that my sister passed away, that was the first time that I was sharing that with someone. And for my cousin who grew up with my sister and had a good loving relationship with my sister, in that time he knew that I needed him, and so he just sat right next to me and just like hugged me and just comforted me and gave me a blessing. And so yeah, that's like basically like the gist of, I guess, that experience, like that day. So yeah.
Yeah, I can't even imagine just this bomb coming out of nowhere. You talked about that day and some of your emotions. What happened as time marched on, as people started to hear about it and hear about your situation?
I feel like not a whole lot of people knew at first. Well, because I only told a very few people, but yeah, in that moment it was a different situation for me because I didn't have any direct family members living here in Utah. I have a sister up in Idaho with her husband, and then my two brothers and my parents live in Arizona, and so for quite some time it was really hard to know who to turn to, and I was grateful that I had my cousin, and I was grateful that I had a few of my friends, but that's kind of who I just kind of stuck with for the first day. And a couple people reached out to me through text message and through social media, just reaching out, and then I got the most text messages the day after I posted. Both me and my sister, we posted about. Sorry to clarify, my sister Riley and we posted about our sister Sasha on Instagram and on Facebook, and that's when I got a lot of text messages, just of people expressing their love and their condolences, and just as a way to comfort and to help in any way that they could, and so that definitely was very appreciated. Sorry, did that answer your question? Okay.
Yeah. When friends started to find out, I remember you would come over to my apartment, we would work on some homework together, and I remember wondering, does Zach want to talk about this? Or, what is Zach feeling today? What would you say, what would you tell to me if we were to go back in time? What would you tell to me that I could have done to help you in those moments?
Okay, well, first off, you helped me so much during that time. Michael, he's an information systems major, and I was taking an information systems class, and so for a couple weeks I was just asking Michael to help me with everything with that, because I could not even grasp the concept that I was still taking classes, and I still needed to take these classes. And for a time I was thinking about withdrawing from some classes or withdrawing from all of my classes, but I just felt like that I really needed to stay in. Coincidentally, the same day that that my sister passed away, earlier that day I found out I got a scholarship for both semesters, full scholarship, and I hate connecting those together. I can't think I got this but I wasn't able to have my sister, or it was one or the other. But I think that it just was very clear to me that the best thing that I needed to do was to continue through my academic progression and to stay in school. But with Michael and with other people, I feel like that what I needed from Michael, you at that time, was I needed someone just to help me. And as lost and confused as I was, you were just so patient with me, and that's what I needed at that time. I guess as I try to look back on that particular experience, I don't know. Not just for you, but I guess for anyone, there's a lot of people that probably didn't know, should I bring it up? Should I talk about it? And I don't know, for me at least, I never felt like that it was a bad thing that people would bring it up. And people bringing it up, it wasn't necessarily triggering for me, because I was already being triggered by so many other things about that event. And so, I feel like that most of the time when people did bring it up, it was a positive experience for me. And so I'd like to think that that's how it would be for other people. But I also understand if, other people deal and grieve differently. And so, sometimes it is just hard to kind of know what to do in those situations. So.
And with people kind of reacting and talking to you about your sister's death, you were probably on the other side, having to talk with other people about relatives or close friends that have passed away for them. How is it different being on that side? where your immediate sister passed away, and all these people are trying to empathize with you. They're trying to love you and understand you. In your situation, what helped you and what maybe didn't help you?
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of positive experiences and a lot of negative experiences that happened through it. And I try to give people the benefit of the doubt that they were just doing the best that they could, or of what they knew how to do. But some of the positive experiences, the day after my sister passed away, my friend, he's in the nursing program at BYU, which is, one of the most intense programs. And he came over at around noon, and he didn't leave until the next day in the evening. And so he was at my place for over 30 hours. And the thing that I needed the most from him at that time, emotions just kind of come in waves. And, so there would be times that I was very, collected and calm. There would be other times that I'd be very angry and frustrated at people or at myself, wishing I was a better brother, knowing that I could have been a better brother. And then there would just be times where I would just be uncontrollably just crying and just so upset and just so heartbroken. And, with any of those emotions, this friend in particular just sat with me. And, he hardly said anything during those times. He just sat with me. And I feel like that it was those moments where I was able to recognize the difference of comforting those who need comfort, and then also mourning with those who are mourning. Because I really feel like that he was going through those emotions with me. And so when I would just crying there, he just would sit there, and at that time, that's exactly what I needed. And then at the same time, there was another friend, the friend that took me home, she was in that spot, just situational that she was there, but she was just so willing to help me. And she came and visited me as well. And, still to this day, I feel like I'm so in debt to her, because I just feel like I was in a very vulnerable and very, debilitating situation where I didn't know how to help myself. And so she was there to help me with that. And then there would just be people who would find out, and I wasn't even close to them, but they felt an obligation, or they felt like they needed to just to come and just visit and talk with me. And I wasn't expecting them to do that, but I just thought it was very kind of them to go out of their way. And there was one friend in particular who came multiple times the same day. And then also my aunt and uncle, they came from Saratoga with their three kids, and they dropped off food for me. And then, it was just more simple things, people would just text me and just ask me, how I was doing. And, that was very kind. And, Hollis as well, I was just very anxious, and I just felt very, very miserable. And this was a couple weeks after it happened, and I just didn't know who else to call at that time, but I just called Hollis, asked if he was available. And again, I feel like that I was the one doing most of the talking, but I feel like that's what I needed at that time. And I just feel like I'll be forever in debt for those friends, just to be there for me. And I feel like it was those friends that made it seem like it wasn't an inconvenience for me to help me and to be there for me. I feel like that's what really helped me the most during those experiences. there were so many great people, and I had hundreds and hundreds of text messages and messages on Instagram and Facebook just reaching out to me, and I know that my sister and my parents and my brothers were also getting that same love as well, and my relatives, and sorry, I'll just share one more good thing, because there really was so much good that came from it. The funerals being very expensive, we were just trying to, my sister and my parents, we were just trying to like come up with like some form of a budget or of a plan, but at the same time we were just so emotionally exhausted that we didn't even know where to start. And then there was an anonymous donor that paid for my sister's coffin, and that was such a cool, powerful, and spiritual experience, knowing that like we didn't even have to know who this person was, but there was also someone who volunteered to do the flowers for the funeral ceremony and the viewing, and then my sister and I, we put together a GoFundMe to help with the funeral expenses. And on top of that, my sister who passed away had 3 sons that she left, and so we wanted to do this GoFundMe to help with any of the funeral expenses and for helping her sons. And within 30 minutes we already had $2,000 donated, and I just remember I just broke down in tears, because I just was so grateful for the people who were just so willing. And there were so many as I was looking through like the payments, like there were so many people who were just anonymous that were willing to pay hundreds of dollars, or even if it was just 5 or 10 or 15, but people were just so willing to help at that time. And so yeah, if anything, I just want people to know that those small acts of kindness and those huge acts of kindness, it doesn't matter, but they really do go a long way. And I'll never forget those things that people did for me and my family. So
what were some of the more negative or difficult experiences that occurred with the death of your sister?
So a lot of the negative experiences that I feel happened, I think it comes to more of just a lack of understanding. I would say that that's how some of the situations were, whereas I think the other one was just, I think people lack emotional maturity. But for those, I got so many text messages and so many messages of people reaching out, and as appreciative as that was and how grateful I was for that, there was just messages that, and I feel like it created more irritation and anger in like for me. And for example, people would say, through this, like, you're going to be able to help so many people. And that just kind of irritates me, because it's just like, I would like to think that I could still help so many people regardless of this. And a comment like that does not, it doesn't empathize, or it's not, I don't know, I just feel like that it kind of does the opposite. At least for me it did. And so yeah, I guess that's one thing that like to be aware of, is that like in talking about like how strong someone is, or I didn't feel strong at all in that situation. I felt very weak, and I felt very crippled, and I like physically could not do things for myself. And so when people said that I was so strong, I just feel like that they were very ignorant with what I was going through. Again, it was all coming from a good place, but it was those type of messages that were really hard for me. Another thing that I struggle with, and I think that, again, it comes from a good place, but I got text messages from people saying, like, my grandma died with cancer last year, or so-and-so died from a sickness or whatever. And it's just like, as sad and as hard as that is, the death of someone from cancer, or from more of a long-term illness or a long-term disease, you can say your goodbyes, you can create and find some closure in that. Whereas an accident, like a car accident, or something just so unexpected, there's no closure in that at all. And so when people say that they know how I feel, or that, like, they're going through something just as hard, that doesn't empathize, and that doesn't it takes away the focus from the person who's grieving, from the other. It switches the focus, and I don't think that is the best way to handle things. In my situation, like a month ago, I guess learning from that, one of my friend's siblings passed away, and I didn't even think about bringing up my sister, because, like, in that moment, it wasn't about me, and I wanted to be there for my friend. And so I just texted them, and I said, hey, like, I heard what happened, and my heart aches for you, and I just want you to know that I am there for you. And with those text messages, they're helpful, but I feel like that there's a lot of people that just say, let me know if there's anything I can do for you, or what can I do to help. And it's just like, with everything going on emotionally and mentally and physically, like, I don't want to delegate to all my friends and family members who want to help on on how to help me, because in that moment I don't know how to help myself. And so I think that in those situations, it's better to speak, instead of asking, like, let me know if there's anything I could do. Say, do you need, like, have you eaten yet? Do you need me to come over and visit you right now? Or, be specific, instead of just, like, sending out, let me know if there's anything I can do for you. And I do understand that if you don't know that person very well, if you don't have that connection to feel like you should go over or whatever, but I think that there's just better ways to address, those concerns. I guess more on, like, the extreme side, I feel like that, kind of going back a little bit, growing up, I've always been very insecure about who I am and about how people perceive me, and because of that, and amongst other things, I've always struggled with anxiety, and I've always struggled with depression, and so, and because I care so much about what other people think, if a friendship doesn't work out, or if a relationship doesn't work out, I feel like I automatically think, okay, what did I do wrong in this situation? So with that, with my sister passing away, one thing that I realized, like, during the weeks and months that came afterwards, there was a lot of friends that I feel like I lost, and I did lose. People who did not want to emotionally be there for me. People who didn't know how to, and people who did not care enough about me in the way that I thought they did. And that was very hard for me. It made me feel very lonely, especially being away from family at that time. It just was, I needed to rely on people here in Provo, and I feel like the people who I expected to help me did not want to. And I did get some text messages. One text message in particular, it said, I know you're going through a lot right now, but you need to be more positive. Another person texted me, said, why should I have compassion for you when you don't have any compassion for me? And I just feel like, there's so many more things that happened that were, very negative experience for me, but I feel like that in any situation, no one has the right to say that to anyone in any particular circumstance. And maybe I was being very emotional, and maybe I was being negative, and maybe I was not expressing as much love as I probably should have, but I'd like to think that people would give me the benefit of the doubt that I'm doing the best that I can for what was happening in my life at that time. And so, yeah, and I've talked to other people about similar experiences, and they also said that they lost so many friends or people that they thought were friends during this. And so I guess like a blessing behind it all, I've just kind of had to recognize the silver lining, that it was it kind of was just more of a cleanse for me in a lot of ways. I recognize on what my priority should be and what my priority shouldn't be, and the people who I should genuinely put interest in, and then the people who I need to eliminate emotionally out of my life.
A question I have, you've mentioned maybe struggling with anxiety a little bit, and then also questions you had with your sisters, feeling like that relationship wasn't where you wanted to leave it, and kind of the brevity and the suddenness of the situation. How have you come to terms with that? What has changed since her passing, with how you talk to yourself and reconcile how things were left?
I feel like I still struggle day to day, feeling like that I should have been a better brother, and I could have. I had every capability to be a better brother, regardless of the strain that we had in our relationship. But one thing that's helped me become more at peace with the experience is that I was a good brother in so many ways, and even though we were distant at times, it didn't change the fact that I loved her and I cared about her, and I love her sons and I care about her sons, and I don't think that my sister wants me to be upset about that and to continue to beat myself up about that. And so day to day, I just kind of have to remind myself that I'm just doing the best that I can, and every opportunity is a learning opportunity as well. But I guess the application that has come out of it, I feel like I've been trying to make more of an effort to be more patient with my friends and be more patient with my parents and my siblings, because death is so real to me in my life now that you don't know when it's going to be the last time that you see someone. And so I just kind of live my life in hopes to be a better friend and a better brother and a better son, and so I've made more of an effort to strengthen those relationships that I have. So
awesome. I think that's something that like I said at the beginning, I feel like with you and you've always done well. You've always made me feel so special when I've talked to you, and you're just genuine, and you're there, and you're present.
And with those just like relationships and moving forward as well, how did kind of your areas of influence change with like school, with work, with friends? How did you take that experience moving forward? Like, did things change for you at all?
Yeah, I feel like kind of what I talked about earlier. I feel like it helped me kind of reconstruct like the perspectives and the important things in my life, and what I should be focusing on and what I don't need to focus on anymore. And so I feel like that it was months and months of an emotional process to kind of figure out, what I need to do for myself, for my mental health, and for my overall progression, especially socially. People who genuinely care about you are going to make an effort to help you and to be with you, during the hard times and during the bad times. And so I think that it's helped me make more of a focus to, I guess, prioritize like my friendships and my relationships with those people. I think that with schooling, I think the biggest change for me was, especially this past year, I could have had every reason to withdraw from my classes and no one would have questioned it. But I feel like that it was very divine and very apparent to me that, I needed to stay in school. And so I feel like these past 2 semesters, I made it a huge priority to do well in school and to do the best that I can and ask for help where needed. Knowing that my sister would not have wanted me to withdraw from my classes, and knowing that God was very aware of me, like during all the things I had to balance in my life. I guess overall, like, it's hard for me to grasp the concept that it's all a part of God's plan. I really struggle with that, especially since my sister has passed away. But the one thing that I can hold on to is that He's very aware of me. And so with school, with finances, with church, with my family relationships and, my social relationships, like the struggles that I have, but yet the progression that I've decided to make in my life, God's very aware of everything and knows that I'm just doing the best that I can. And I know that, I guess, in turn, that I will be better from that. And and even though the pain of losing my sister won't ever go away, I know that I can become stronger, and I can be able to, and I really can work through hard things. And even if I feel like that I am very weak at times, I always say that, like, I feel like that God is, dragging me, to keep going. And, and if that's what I need to be able to become stronger, then that's what I need. And so I'm grateful for the progression that I've been able to make. One of the biggest lessons that I was able to learn through this experience is the difference between mourning with those who mourn and comforting those who stand in need of comfort. People just kind of put those 2 phrases together and don't really think much about it. But it doesn't say comfort those who mourn, and it doesn't say mourn with those who stand in need of comfort. The saying, they're 2 separate things. And I think that comfort, the times that comfort is needed is different than where mourning is needed. Whereas comfort, you're being there, you're helping, and you are, you're dropping off food, and you're sending text messages, and asking for help. And I think that all those are a great example of showing comfort and help at that time. And I also think that comfort can come through advice and through kind and strong words of encouragement. But I think that the most important thing, what I think really helped me the most, was those people who did mourn with me when I was mourning. And for those who haven't been through a similar experience, when you are mourning, your life slows down completely, and your focus is minimal, if any, and you don't know what how you're feeling, and you don't know how to express yourself, and those emotions comes in waves. And I think that if someone genuinely cared about you and wanted to mourn with you when you are mourning. It means that people are taking a few hours or a day or so out of their life to be with you, and just to be there with you in those emotions is just so powerful. And that I think is just just a very powerful gift that people have to be able to do that. I think that a lot of people who have gone through a similar situation, the death of a loved one or a family member or a friend, can recognize the difference between comfort and mourning. But yeah, it takes a very special person to be able to know how to do that without going through that experience. And so I guess that my hopes in sharing that with you guys is at least to create more of an awareness of the difference, and when other people are going through those situations in the future, that there are different and better ways to be able to deal with those situations. And again, everyone is different, but I think that really striving to mourn with those who mourn is just such a very powerful experience, and a very powerful and Christ-like thing to do. So.
Yeah. You've talked a little bit about this, and you just talked about it now, but in your words, what is empathy? And what has this experience taught you about that?
Yeah. To me, I think that empathy is it's a lot stronger of an ability than it is to comfort and to sympathize with those. I think that with empathy, it comes from like a very personal experience or a personal place, or a characteristic that that you are able to feel and express, and understand those emotions. And I think that people who do have that emotional maturity will be able to have that empathy to help other people during those times. And a lot of people don't have that ability or know how to show empathy for people, but I think that it's definitely something that people can learn, to better themselves at, and in hopes that they can help people through any forms of trials or experiences.
Zach, thanks so much for sharing your story with us today. It's a huge honor and pleasure to be able to hear this to be with you and walk a little bit with you through this journey. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it.
We're huge fans. Huge fans. I hope you know that.
Thank you.